It's all right? Okay. Let's see, Gail, just state your name and the date.
My name is Gail Bruker. As of 2 weeks ago, I just got married. I was Gail Herson, and today's date is the 12th of November, 2013.
Very good. Can you tell us a little bit about how your family first got to South Africa, if you know the origins of that?
Yes. My grandfather came originally from Lithuania, from a city called Libo. And in fact, he wrote his memoirs. Very fascinating. It wasn't professionally done, but just talking about how he suffered anti-Semitism, and then he went over to Germany and kind of almost escaped through the night and took a boat down to South Africa. And as it was done in those days, then he brought his brother and his father, and they opened up a shop on the mines in South Africa. That was my mom's side of the family. My dad's mom came from Britain, from London, and she came as a young girl, I think 17 years old, with her sister, and but I think the Lithuanian influence was very strong.
Tell us a little bit about your life growing up in South Africa. What was memorable to you?
What was memorable was that it was probably like America was in the 1950s. Our whole neighborhood, everybody had gates in and out of each other's homes. It was very idyllic. Kids riding their bicycles in the streets. I went to Jewish day school for all my schooling. I lived in a very Jewish neighborhood, and I guess the one thing that I felt was very different as compared to here is that basically it was very easy to be Jewish. You just could sort of lifted your nose up in the air and you could just smell the Judaism. It was very easy, and when I came here, I felt the responsibility on my shoulders to carry the tradition, because it was very easy to do there. Everybody around me was Jewish. The supermarkets on Fridays, all the ladies are running around getting challahs and everything for Shabbat, and on the Yontavim, everyone was walking to shul or getting dressed and going to shul. So it was, in some ways, very idyllic neighborhood.
What city were you in?
Johannesburg.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure.
Yes.
So then, given all of that, how and why did you actually make the decision to leave South Africa?
Well, the politics in South Africa were very disturbing to us in terms of the safety, really, for white people. I knew that it was only a matter of time and necessity that it would no longer be ruled by whites, and I was very concerned about how that transition would take place. It was a necessary transition that had to happen. The oppression had lasted for so many years, and the numbers, the ratios, at that time it was like 30 million blacks to 4 million whites. The ratios were untenable. And, with all the uprisings, the Soweto uprising, the so-called terrorist ANC, I knew it was going to be, I felt like it was going to be violent and bloody, and that there would not be a future in South Africa. So my fiance at that time, Neil Herson, he and I came on a visit to America, and we literally went to every city where we had somebody to stay with, where we knew somebody. And Dallas was actually our last stop. But we knew, we were young, we knew we didn't want to even put up a picture in a home in South Africa. What was happening at that time, what they called the brain drain, all the educated professionals and then the young folks were leaving because the writing was on the wall that there was not a future for us there.
What was your family's reaction, and who left also?
Well, when we went, it was December of 1985. We told our family, we'd been dating for many years, we told our family we're going on a trip to America. We knew we were going to look for a place to stay, but we knew it would freak them out. Because even though a lot of young people were moving, it was still, they didn't want us to leave. They didn't want us to leave our home. So after we found the place we were going to be, we called them and we said, we're getting married and we're leaving. And they understood, but they were very upset. Not upset with us, upset for the fact that even though they knew we kind of had to leave, that we were going to leave.
Do you think any of them were considering it as well?
Everybody was considering it. Leaving a country, leaving at that time a good life and a settled life, it takes a lot. And so the fact that we knew we were going to be starting out our life, it was a good time in our lives to make the change. Everybody thought about it. It took some courage to pick yourself up, and you couldn't take a lot with you. There were all sorts of restrictions. But we were going to be a young married couple. We didn't have anything anyway.
So you said Dallas was the last place you visited. So how did you consider finally coming here and settling here?
All through the places that we went in the United States, New York and Orlando and LA and Philadelphia and Detroit, we kind of looked through my ex-husband's qualifications. We needed to get sponsored by someone. We needed somebody to sign papers that say they needed us and would give us a work visa, because otherwise we would have to come into this country illegally. And when companies hear the word sponsored, they thought it would cost them money. In fact, we footed the bill for all of it, the lawyers and all the fees and everything. But companies were skittish to take us on. And when we came here to Dallas, we came to stay with Neil's cousins, and they said to me, why don't you, because I had training as a teacher in Jewish education, they said, why don't you try, Gail, go to the Jewish Day School? Fine, we made an appointment, and we went to Solomon Schechter Academy, and we asked to meet with the head of the school there. It was Rabbi Feinstein. And within 5 minutes of meeting us, he changed our life. He said, this school was founded in many ways by South Africans. I know what kind of community you have there. You are a young Jewish couple. I will do anything I can. I don't know what I have to do. I'll sign everything I need to sign. I don't even know if I can give you a job, but I'll do what I can to sign the papers you need. So he just transformed our life. After we'd been traveling all around, in like 12 seconds, and really within 5 minutes of meeting us, because he knew who the South African Jews were, and he knew what kind of community he came from. So it was like we weren't just anyone. He had a context from where we came. And I will forever be very grateful to Rabbi Ed Feinstein for doing that for us.
Very good. In general, having come to Dallas and having seen other cities, if you can think back, what were a couple of your first impressions of Dallas as a whole, and what were some of your adjustment situations and problems?
Well, initially I thought to myself, it seems similar to Johannesburg in some respects. There's like the north, the south, suburbia. We liked the fact that it wasn't a New York or an LA, because we felt like, in some respects, South Africa was always at that time 20 years behind, just in where it was as a society and advancement. So we felt like it was a slower place to begin, more conservative. And then coming here, it's hard to really quantify coming to a place where the culture is completely different. Everything was different. The taste of the chicken was different. The cultural mores that you guys just knew by living in the place, by osmosis, we had to learn from the outside coming in. social interactions, stuff that you learn maybe going through the college experience and the education experience here. It was all completely different. I would say that our culture was more British based, and so while we had the same language to an extent, I found myself often talking to people and then getting that telltale blank stare, and I knew that I'd said something that was either a British idiom, a South African idiom, or it was just simply the wrong word to use in that setting. So the language primarily was the same, but the culture was vastly different.
What type of occupation did Neil, was he looking for? What did he find?
Well, he started off in the restaurant business, and then he went into the sports collectibles and memorabilia business, and then he went into the pharmaceutical business, and he's been doing that for about the last 20 years.
Did either of you attend any kind of school here? Not as professionals, but going back to take some classes or anything like that? Any type of college situation here in Dallas?
Not formal college classes, but I've taken classes throughout the years at the community college, and Neil's taken many management courses, just to up our skills.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, overall, you've talked about Dallas, but specifically in the Jewish community, how did you feel? Did you feel welcomed? Did you feel like there were other types of barriers, or overall, did you have a pretty good feeling about it all in the Jewish community here?
Yeah, you know, as I look back, I'm at year 27 and a half. And so it's hard to really think back 27 and a half years ago, but especially since I relocated 2 weeks ago to Boston, and my husband, he just saw how in our time that we were courting here, how embraced I was and entrenched in the Jewish community here, and how supported. So it was, I was, since I was in Jewish education, I've been involved in just so many Jewish educational things, Jewish social things. My whole life has been part of this Jewish community here, and yes, I feel very embraced by it.
Did you try any of the synagogues? Did you join any of those while you were here?
Yes. I started off, we were longing for something similar to what we had in South Africa, which I would say was sort of traditional, modern Orthodox. So we started off with Orthodox. We went to Ohev Shalom, and we felt that wasn't as inclusive as we would like. We went to Shereth for a while, because at that time Shereth and Solomon Schechter Academy were connected, so it was a natural connection. And then for a long period of time we were at Tiferet Israel, which was closer to what we were used to, being a traditional synagogue. And that was very nice. At the time, I switched to Shereth for a while when Rabbi Cohen left Tiferet Israel, and my daughter within the year was coming up for a bat mitzvah. And I asked her, where would you like to have your bat mitzvah? Because Tiferet didn't have a rabbi, and I just needed to be settled and organized. And she said she wanted to go to Shereth. And so we were there for a couple of years. And then for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been a member of Sha'arei Tefillah, and a very modern Orthodox community. And my daughter, actually, my older daughter, was the one that sort of got us into that community. She attended Yavne Academy, and she would ask me, Mommy, please can I spend Shabbat in the Eruv? And please can you come with me to shul? And so when your teenage daughter asks you to go to shul, you join that shul immediately. And it's a wonderful, wonderful community.
It certainly is.
Mm-hmm.
What South African, if any, Jewish cultural traditions have you continued here, have you maintained? Can you think of any examples?
I would definitely say the food, first and foremost. The Lithuanian-based chopped herring and mock crayfish, and trying to think, kichel. My mom makes kichel. but it's not the kichel that I sometimes have here. It's very thin, delicious kichel to have with the chopped herring. So we, for many, many years, I couldn't use any American cookbooks because I just couldn't relate to them. So we would just bring all our favorite cookery books from South Africa because that was the food that we knew. So food would be a major piece. I'm trying to think of other specifically South African customs. It would probably be interesting to ask my children. They say to me, "Mom, we wish we were born in South Africa because obviously we've brought all the best of the traditions that we do, and they appreciate that." And I think a chief one of them is very close family ties, and I was fortunate over the years that a large number of my family members, including my parents and 2 sisters and their families, moved here. And so, the care and the concern and the selflessness with regard to family that all of us have is something that we do. And of course, we see each other for sure every week on Friday nights and celebrate all the holidays together. And
how long have they been here?
Family started coming about 8 or 9 years after my ex-husband and I were here. And so, I've been here 27 years. I think my parents came about 15 or 16 years ago. So we've had, so many years to have them here and my children to have their grandparents here. And it's been such a blessing because South Africa is so far away. And, we just wouldn't have had the blessing of having my parents and, the family so close. We just wouldn't have had it.
Before they moved here, how often did you get to see them?
In my early first years, before family was here, I pretty much would go back every summer. I was teaching at Solomon Schechter, and so I would go back every summer for a month because I had all my sisters, my nieces and nephews, my parents, all of them were there. Once they started coming over, the frequency dropped. I still do have a sister and her children living there, but they come here rather than us going there. I haven't been for about 12 years or so.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I know most South Africans that I know are very conscious of and follow everything going on in Israel. They're very Zionist. How do you feel? How important was Israel to you and your family growing up?
The Jewish community there was, I guess, what you would call liberals, Democrats. Although we did enjoy the fruits of apartheid, we didn't agree with the oppression. As whites, we enjoyed the fruits of it. But there are many Jewish South Africans that were very active in the movement for freedom for blacks in South Africa. So I bring that up to say that we did not agree with the government, and I did not regard South Africa as my primary. Allegiance to South Africa was not primary. Allegiance to Israel was primary. And I can remember in elementary school, I have a memory of this, maybe it was about, fourth or fifth grade. Every Friday we would have assembly, and it was a Jewish day school, and so we had to sing Distem, which was the South African anthem, and Hatikva. So there were the two flags. And I remember when it was time to sing Distem, which was symbolic, it was in Afrikaans, symbolic of the oppressive nationalist white government, I wouldn't sing. And I would sing Hatikva with all my heart and soul. So we definitely were Jewish South Africans with a strong allegiance to Israel. And partly because we couldn't love the government that was ruling our country, so we didn't have that allegiance. I probably have more allegiance to South Africa once I left it than when I was there.
Along that line, is there anything that you can think of that you still miss about your life in South Africa overall?
No. I left as a newly married. I left 2 weeks after I was married. And so I did not have an adult life there. My whole adult life has been here. So as much as someone longs for their childhood, the carefree days of your childhood, possibly, but no, I don't miss anything.
Okay. Is there anyone still there besides your sister, of course, who is living there? Is there anyone else that you can think of that you would like to help come here or talk into coming here and maybe perhaps, persuade?
It's not an easy thing to change cultures, change countries. I would never persuade anyone because America is not a cakewalk. It's hard. It's hard to make a living. Life is hard. I've had a wonderful life, but life in general, wherever you are, there's no paradise. One makes sacrifices one way or the other, and the sacrifices that one makes are very personal. It depends what you want out of life, and so I couldn't tell anyone, what they should want out of life. They would need to decide that for themselves because it's so specific to each person.
Since you've been here so long, first of all, do you have your citizenship here?
Yes.
Okay. So here's a tricky one. Do you consider yourself an American or not?
It is a tricky one. I still probably say I'm South African because so many of my traditions and the way I raised my children, if people say, but I am American. I'm American, I'm Jewish, American, South African. All of those things.
Yes. So bottom line, Gail, are you glad that you have come here, that you've moved here?
Yes. I feel very blessed and very grateful. Whatever trials and tribulations as I've gone through the process of life, as everybody does, they've all served to bring me to the place where I am, which I think is at least the beginnings of the best Gail that I could be, because we're never done until we're 6 feet under. But the opportunities, the growth, the expansion, I don't know if I would have gotten that or done that in South Africa. I don't know because I didn't live my adult or professional life there. But this country does offer anything to anyone. You just need to seize it, get up, do it, be self-motivated. And so, yes, unequivocally. I remember actually in the early years when we came, it was hard. Neil and I were these two little kids, in our early 20s, on our own in a new country. And I remember, during the hard times, thinking two things. Thankfully, our family back home supported us doing this, supported emotionally. They knew we were doing the right thing. And we felt unequivocally that we were doing the right thing for our future. And that's what got us through the early tough years. Because when you know you're doing the right thing, you can endure anything. It's when you're, maybe it would be better there, or maybe I should have gone to Australia, or maybe I should have gone to Israel or London, but we felt at that time absolutely unequivocal in the fact that we were doing the right thing for our future and our children's future.
Very good. Well, I thank you for this wonderful interview and best of luck in your next chapter.
Thank you.